The rain started sometime after midnight, a gentle patter against the windows of our third-floor apartment, the kind of sound that creeps into your thoughts when you're not looking for it. It wasn't loud, not the sort of downpour that demands attention, but a steady murmur like the world outside was muttering secrets I'd never quite catch. I was awake, though I shouldn't have been, sprawled across the couch in the living room, the TV off, the place dim except for the faint blue glow of my laptop screen. It sat there on my chest, warm against my shirt, humming softly as I scrolled through nothing in particular, Reddit threads, some half-read article about car repairs, a YouTube video paused on a guy ranting about oil changes. Pointless stuff, really, the kind of mindless drift you fall into when sleep won't come and the night feels too heavy to fight. She'd gone to bed hours earlier, my wife Claire. I could picture her up there, curled under the quilt in our room, her dark hair spilling across the pillow, breathing slow and even like nothing in the world could touch her. We'd been married 6 years, together 8. I'd always thought I knew her, not just the big things like how she took her coffee or the way she'd hum old country songs when she cooked, but the quiet corners too, the parts she didn't say out loud. That night, though, I don't know, something fell off, like a thread pulling loose in a sweater you've worn too long. Maybe it was the rain, or the way the apartment smelled faintly of her lavender lotion, clinging to the air even after she'd left the room. Maybe it was me. Her phone was on the coffee table, a sleek little rectangle, screen dark, resting next to a half-empty glass of water she'd forgotten to take upstairs. It had been there since dinner, when she'd laughed at some dumb joke I'd made about the neighbor's dog, her eyes crinkling at the corners the way they always did. I hadn't thought much of it then. Just a phone. Just Claire being Claire, scattered and charming in her own way. But then it buzzed. A single pulse, sharp against the rain's drone, and the screen lit up. A notification, small and white against the black. I shouldn't have looked. I know that now, though it doesn't change a damn thing. Curiosity's a funny beast. It doesn't roar, doesn't announce itself. It just nudges you, soft as a whisper, until you're reaching over, fingers brushing the glass, tilting the phone just enough to see. Video upload confirmed. That's what it said. 5 words, stark and simple, like a punch you don't feel until the bruise blooms later. Claire's name was right there. Her real name, not some fake handle or throwaway alias. My Claire, the one who'd cried at our wedding, who'd spent last Sunday baking cookies for the kid down the hall. I sat there, staring, the laptop sliding a little down my chest as my breath caught somewhere deep, tangled in my ribs. The rain kept going, steady and indifferent, while the screen dimmed again, leaving me in the dark with that one sentence burning behind my eyes. I didn't move, not yet. I just listened to the rain, to the silence upstairs, to the slow crack opening somewhere inside me. The rain didn't let up that night. It just kept tapping, a quiet rhythm against the glass, like it was counting the seconds I sat there, frozen on that couch. The laptop had gone dark by then, its screen saver kicking in, some generic swirl of colors I didn't bother to shake awake. Claire's phone stayed where it was, though, right there on the coffee table, its little light long faded, like it hadn't just turned my world sideways. I could have picked it up again, tapped the screen, dug deeper into whatever that notification meant, but I didn't. Not yet. My hands stayed where they were, one resting on the armrest, the other curled loose against my stomach, fingers twitching now and then like they weren't sure what to do. The truth was, I wasn't ready to know more, not when knowing felt like stepping off a ledge into something I couldn't climb back from. Upstairs, the floor creaked. Faint, just the house settling, or maybe Claire shifting in her sleep. I pictured her again, tucked under that quilt, her face soft and peaceful, oblivious to the storm brewing down here. How long had this been going on? That's what gnawed at me first. Not the what or the why, but the how long. Had she been sitting in the same apartment, maybe on this same couch, uploading whatever was while I was at work, or asleep, or grilling burgers on the patio last 4th of July? The thought sank into me slow, heavy like damp wood soaking up water. No rush, just a steady creep. I'd always trusted her, hadn't I? She was Claire, my Claire, with her crooked smile and that laugh that could pull me out of any funk. But now there was this other Claire, one with a secret account, a life I didn't know, and that gap between them was starting to feel like a canyon. I stood up eventually. Don't know how long it took, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. The rain blurred the streetlights outside, turning them into smeary yellow halos, and I wandered to the window, staring at nothing. My reflection stared back. A tired guy, mid-30s, hair a mess from the couch, eyes hollowed out by the dimness. I didn't look angry, not yet, just lost. I thought about waking her, storming upstairs, shaking her awake with that phone in my hand. What the hell is this, Claire? But my feet wouldn't move. Anger was there, sure, flickering somewhere deep, but it was buried under something thicker, shock, maybe, or the kind of hurt that doesn't know how to shout. So I stayed put, leaning against the cool glass, letting the rain fill the silence. By the time I sat back down, the idea of sleep was a joke. My mind was spinning too fast, picking at every memory, every moment I might have missed something. That time she'd stayed up late editing photos on her laptop, the way she'd started locking her phone last summer, how she'd brush off questions about her day with that easy laugh. Little things, nothing big on their own, but now they stacked up, a tower of doubt leaning hard against everything I believed about us. I grabbed her phone again, couldn't help it, and this time I didn't stop. Password was her birthday, same as always. The app was there, buried in a folder labeled work stuff, and when I opened it, there they were. Videos. Her. My wife. My breath stopped. The rain faded, and all I could hear was my own pulse, loud and slow, like a drum in the dark. The rain had softened by then, just a whisper against the windows, but it didn't matter. The apartment felt quieter than it should have, like the air itself was holding its breath. I sat there on the couch, Claire's phone in my hands, its screen glowing up at me like some kind of confession I hadn't asked for. The app was open, a famous video sharing platform with explicit content of all things. And there they were, thumbnails, little squares lined up neat and orderly, each one a piece of her I didn't recognize. I didn't click them, not right away. I just scrolled, slow, letting the titles sink in, words I couldn't connect to the woman sleeping upstairs, words that felt like they belonged to someone else. Late night teas, solo and silk, after hours play, they hit me like pebbles dropping into a still pond, rippling out, distorting everything I thought I knew. My thumb hovered, trembling a little, but I couldn't bring myself to press play. Not yet. She'd filmed them here. That much was clear. The background in one thumbnail. I'd know that wall anywhere. The faded blue paint, the corner of our dresser with its chipped edge, our bedroom, our space, turned into something public, something for strangers to devour. My stomach twisted, not with rage, though that was there, smoldering, but with this strange, hollow ache like I'd lost something I couldn't name. How many nights had I been in that bed, inches from her, while she planned this? How many times had she kissed me goodnight, her lips warm and familiar, then waited for me to drift off so she could slip into this other life? I leaned back, the phone slipping onto my lap, and stared at the ceiling, water stains up there, faint and splotchy, from a leak we'd fixed last spring. We'd laughed about it then, her holding the ladder, me swearing at the drywall. That Claire, where'd she go? I don't know how long I sat like that, the phone a dead weight against my thigh, the rain a faint hum in the background. Part of me wanted to march upstairs, flip on the lights, demand answers. Why, Claire? What the hell's this about? But the words wouldn't form, not even in my head. They felt too big, too messy, like they'd shatter something I wasn't ready to break. Instead, I picked up the phone again, scrolled more, 10 videos, 12, 15, timestamps stretching back months. Comments too, hundreds of them. Faceless usernames typing filth and praise, some calling her gorgeous, others worse. My jaw tightened, and for the first time that night, I felt it, a spark, sharp and hot, cutting through the numbness. Not just hurt now, something darker, something that wanted to bite back. I locked the phone, set it down, careful, deliberate, like it might explode if I moved too fast. The rain picked up again, a little harder, drumming against the glass as I stood and paced the room, socks silent on the hardwood. I didn't know what to do with it. This thing I'd found, this truth about her. Confront her? Leave? Pretend I'd never seen it? Every option felt wrong, like a jacket that didn't fit. So I stopped by the window again, hands in my pockets, watching the streetlights blur through the wet glass. Upstairs, she slept, or maybe she didn't. Maybe she was awake too, staring at her own ceiling, wondering if I'd ever find out. The thought made my chest ache, and that spark flickered again, whispering ideas I wasn't ready to hear. Morning came slow, the rain easing into a drizzle that left the windows streaked and hazy, like the world outside couldn't decide if it wanted to clear up or just give in. I hadn't slept, not really, maybe a few minutes here and there, slumped on the couch, the phone still sitting on the coffee table like a loaded gun I didn't dare touch again. My eyes burned, dry and heavy, but my mind wouldn't quit, wouldn't let me drift far enough to forget what I'd seen. Claire's videos, her secret, the comments, they looped through my head, a slow carousel of images and words, each turn tightening something in my chest. The apartment was quiet now, too quiet, the kind of stillness that presses down on you, makes every creak and sigh of the building feel personal. I wondered if she'd wake soon, pad downstairs at her bare feet, hair messy, asking why I hadn't come to bed. What would I say? I got up before she could, stiff, joints popping from the night on the couch, and shuffled to the kitchen. Coffee seemed like a lifeline, something normal to cling to, so I set the pot brewing, the gurgle and hiss filling the space with a sound that wasn't my own thoughts. The smell hit me, bitter, warm, familiar, and for a second, I could almost pretend it was any other morning. Almost. I leaned against the counter, mug in hand, staring at the steam curling up, and tried to piece her together. The Claire I'd married, the one who'd cried when her dad died, who'd spent a whole weekend painting this kitchen with me, laughing when I got more on my shirt than the walls. Then this other Claire, the one who'd turned our bedroom into a stage, who'd smiled at me over dinner while strangers watch her online. They didn't fit, those two. It was like trying to jam puzzle pieces from different boxes into the same picture. The stairs creaked then, soft, deliberate, and my breath caught, coffee burning my tongue as I swallowed too fast. She appeared in the doorway, wrapped in that old plaid robe, rubbing her eyes like a kid. "Hey," she said, voice sleepy, a little rough. "You're up early." I nodded, managed kept my grip loose on a mug so she wouldn't see my knuckles whiten. She didn't notice, or maybe she did, and I just couldn't tell anymore. She shuffled past, grabbed a cup, poured her own coffee, humming something under her breath. That damn country tune again. I watched her, the way the light caught her hair, the way she moved like nothing was wrong, and that spark from last night flared again, hotter now, threading through the ache. "Bad night?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder, and I shrugged, casual, like my world wasn't splitting open. "Couldn't sleep," I said, and she smiled, small and easy, like that was enough. I sipped my coffee, let the heat ground me, and said nothing else, not about the phone, not about the videos, not about the canyon growing between us. She sat at the table, scrolling her own phone now, oblivious to the fact I'd held it hours ago, seen her other life. The drizzle tapped the window, a faint echo of last night's rain, and I stood there, watching her, feeling that spark settle into something steady, something patient. I didn't know what I'd do yet, but I knew I couldn't unsee it, and I knew she'd never guess I had. Not yet. The coffee went cold in my hands, and I let it, tasting the bitter edge as the day stretched out ahead, quiet and waiting. The drizzle hung around all morning, a gray veil over the apartment, softening the edges of everything. The furniture, the light, even the sound of Claire's voice as she moved through the kitchen. She'd finished her coffee by then, left the mug in the sink, and wandered off to shower, leaving me alone with the hum of the fridge and the faint drip of the faucet I'd been meaning to fix. I stood there, staring at the sink, her mug tipped sideways against mine, a little domestic scene, so normal it almost hurt. But it wasn't normal, not anymore. That phone, those videos, the stranger's words, they'd carve a line through us, invisible to her, sharp as a blade to me. I rinsed the mugs, slow and methodical, the water cool against my hands, and felt that spark from last night hardening into something else. Not just anger, not just hurt, but a kind of resolve, cold and clear, like ice settling over a lake. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not with the steam from her shower drifting down the hall. Not with her humming still echoing in my head. Instead, I waited. She left for work an hour later. Some admin gig downtown, nothing fancy. Kissing my cheek on her way out, her lavender scent lingering as the door clicked shut. The apartment went still, and I moved fast, grabbed her phone from the counter where she'd left it charging, punched in her birthday again. It unlocked easy, same as before, and there was the app, the account, the videos. 15 of them, just like last night, but now I had time. Time to look, time to think. I sat at the kitchen table, the drizzle tapping outside, and clicked the first one, Late Night Tease, dated 4 months back. The screen filled with her, Claire, my Claire, in our bedroom, smiling at the camera, her voice soft and playful, saying things I'd never heard her say to me. It wasn't the sight that hit hardest, though that twisted something deep. No question, it was the sound. Her laugh, light and familiar, the way she'd pause, tilt her head, like she was teasing someone she knew. My hand shook a little, but I kept watching. 3 minutes, then 5, then the next video, solo and silk. Same room, same smile, different night. The comments rolled in below, crude, eager, some begging for more. And I read them all, every word, letting them sink in like stones. She'd built this whole world right under my nose, and I'd been blind, cooking dinner, fixing the car, sleeping beside her while she played this game. The spark flared again, but I swallowed it, kept it low. I wasn't ready to break anything yet. Not until I understood. I locked the phone, set it back exactly where she'd left it, cord looped the same way, screen dark, and leaned back in the chair, the drizzle a steady pulse outside. She'd be gone 5 hours, maybe 6 if traffic was bad. Plenty of time. I grabbed my own laptop, opened a browser, and started searching. Not her videos, not yet, but the app itself, the platform, how it worked. Uploads, accounts, security. I read fast, notes scribbling across a napkin, my coffee cold beside me. The idea was there, vague but growing. Not to yell, not to leave, but to turn this back on her, quiet and slow. The rain picked up a soft roar now, and I smiled, just a little, just enough. She'd never see it coming, and that felt right. The rain had settled into a steady rhythm by midday, a low hum against the apartment's walls, like a heartbeat I could lean into while I worked. Claire's phone sat untouched now, back on its charger, innocent as ever. But my laptop was open, screen glowing with tabs and notes, a mess of ideas sprawling across the table. The drizzle streaked the windows, blurring the world outside, and I liked it that way. It kept me in, kept my focus tight. I'd spent the morning digging into platform's guts. Not the videos, not her stuff, but the mechanics. How accounts worked, how uploads posted, how you could lock them down or crack them open. It wasn't hard to find forums, tutorials, a couple shady corners of the web where people bragged about bending platforms to their will. I sipped my coffee, cold now, but sharp enough to keep me going, and let the pieces fall together, slow, deliberate, like stacking cards in a house you know you'll knock down later. She'd be home soon. 4 hours. Maybe less if the buses ran on time. And I didn't want her catching me like this, hunched over a screen, plotting. Not that she'd guess. Claire never looked too close, never asked why I'd been quiet all morning, why my eyes lingered on her a little too long over breakfast. She just smiled, kissed me, floated out the door like always. That was her strength, wasn't it? That easy charm, that way of making you feel like everything was fine, even when she was building a secret right under your feet. I admired it in a twisted way, still do, looking back, but made her blind too, and that's where I'd start. I scribbled more on a napkin, passwords, settings, a quick sketch of her account layout from memory. The plan wasn't loud, wasn't messy, No fights, no slamming doors. It'd be subtle, surgical, something she'd feel later when it was too late to undo. I tested it first, not on her account, not yet, but on a dummy. I made a throwaway email and a fake name. Uploaded some random clip, an old car ad from YouTube, nothing special, and watched it post, watched the views tick up slow. Then I logged in from my phone, changed the settings, swapped the video for something else. A cooking tutorial, grainy and dull. It worked seamless, quiet, the kind of switch no one noticed unless they were looking hard. I deleted the account after, wiped it clean, but the method stuck. I could do it to hers, could turn her little stage into something else entirely. The rain tapped harder, a sudden gust rattling the glass, and I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, that water stained still there, mocking me. What would I use? Not a tour-themed videos, not her game. Something tamer, something that'd unravel her world without a sound. Soap operas, maybe she loved those, watched them late when she thought I was asleep. The irony felt right. The clock ticked closer to her return, and I closed the laptop, cleared the table. Napkins in the trash, mug in the sink, everything back where it belonged. The apartment looked the same as when she'd left, but I didn't feel the same. That spark was a flame now, steady, controlled, warming me from the inside. I stood by the window, hands in my pockets, watching the drizzle coat the street below. She'd walk through that door soon, smiling, oblivious, and I'd smile back, knowing what she didn't. The rain kept falling, and I let it. It was mine now, this quiet, this plan, this slow burn of a game we'd play. The rain came back that afternoon, heavier now, a steady pour that drummed against the roof and turned the apartment into a cocoon. Just me, the walls, and the plan I'd been shaping all day. Claire was still at work, her desk downtown, probably piled with papers she'd complain about later, her voice bright and tired when she'd call to say she was on her way. I didn't wait for that call. I couldn't, not with the clock ticking down, not with the laptop open and the files ready to go. The kitchen table was my war room, covered in coffee rings and crumpled napkins, the glow of the screen cutting through the dimness like a lighthouse in the storm. I found the clips last night, old Days of Our Lives episodes, ripped from some streaming site, full of the melodramatic garbage she loved, and spent the morning trimming them, stitching them together, making sure they'd fit her titles without a hitch. The rain kept me company, a low roar that drowned out the doubts creeping in, the ones asking if I could really do this. It wasn't about the videos anymore, not just them, anyway. It was her face in them, that smile, the way she'd looked at the camera like it was a friend, a lover, someone who wasn't me. I'd watched enough now, 3, maybe 4, to know the pattern. Our bedroom, her voice, the lingerie I'd bought her last Christmas, all of it twisted into something public, something cheap. The hurt hadn't faded, but it had changed, sharpened into a tool I could hold, something I could use. I leaned back in the chair, the wood creaking under me, and stared at the files lined up on the screen, 15 of them, one for each of hers, titled and tagged to match. Late Night Tease would be Victor Kiriaki's scheming in a tuxedo. Solo and Silk would be Hope Brady crying over a letter. It was absurd, almost funny, but the humor was cold, a thin layer over the ice in my chest. I tested the upload one more time, not on her account, not yet, but on that dummy I'd made, pushing a clip through to see how it landed. The platform swallowed it easy, no flags, no fuss, just a quiet posting that sat there, waiting. I deleted it after, wiped the slate clean, but the process was locked in now. I knew the steps, knew the timing. Her phone was the key, still upstairs, still hers, but mine too, in a way, since that birthday password never changed. I'd log in tonight, after she was asleep, after the wine and the TV dulled her edges. The rain pounded harder, rattling the windows, and I stood, stretched, felt the stiffness in my shoulders from hours bent over this. Could I really do it? Rewrite her secret, turn it into a joke, let her wake up to a mess she couldn't explain? The spark said yes, that flame I'd nursed since the first night, fed by every lie I'd pieced together. I cleared the table before she got home. Laptop shut, napkins tossed, coffee mug rinsed, leaving no trace of the hours I'd spent. The rain slowed as the sky darkened, and I stood by the sink, hands wet, staring at the drops sliding down the glass. She'd walk in soon, smiling, oblivious, and I'd smile back. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. The files were ready, the plan was set, and I was balanced on the edge, one step from the drop. The apartment hummed around me, quiet and waiting, and I dried my hands slow, feeling the weight of what was coming. Tomorrow, she'd see, but tonight it was still mine. The rain had stopped by evening, leaving the apartment wrapped in a damp hush, the kind of quiet that seeps into everything, softening the edges of the furniture, the hum of the fridge, even the sound of my own breathing. Claire was home now, curled up on the couch with a glass of wine, some reality show flickering on the TV, all fake tears and loud arguments, her kind of escape. I sat across from her in the armchair, laptop on my knees, pretending to scroll through work emails while the real work happened in the background. Her phone was upstairs, charging again. She'd left it there after dinner, same as always, trusting the routine we'd built over years. She didn't know I'd borrowed it earlier, didn't know I'd logged in one last time, didn't know the files I'd queued up were already worming their way into her secret world. The air smelled of garlic from the pasta we'd eaten, and she laughed at something on the screen, soft, carefree, like nothing had changed. But it had, and it was about to. I'd done it that afternoon while she was still at work, cracked her account wide open, not to delete, not to destroy, but to rewrite. The dummy tests had worked, the method was solid, and now it was hers I'd touched. 15 videos, each one swapped out, replaced with clips I'd pulled from her favorite soap opera, Days of Our Lives, hours of melodramatic nonsense she'd binge on weekends, muted on my laptop while I cooked. I'd edited them quick, kept the cuts rough but clean, no skin, no tease, just over-the-top dialogue about love triangles and fake deaths, the kind of stuff that'd make her cringe if she knew it was tied to her name. The title stayed the same, Late Night Tease, Solo in Silk, but the content, oh, it was a different beast now. I hit upload, watched the progress bars fill, and logged out, leaving no trace. Her password unchanged, her phone untouched since. The drizzle had been my cover then, a soft patter while I worked, but now it was done, and the silence felt like victory. She stretched on the couch, yawned, her robe slipping a little as she reached for her wine. "You okay over there?" she asked, glancing my way, her voice light, lazy. I nodded, gave her a small smile. "Just tired," I said, and she bought it turned back to her show. My screen showed an inbox I wasn't reading, but my mind was on her account, on the views ticking up, on the comments I'd check later, confusion, maybe anger from the strangers who'd come for something else. They'd get Stefano plotting revenge instead, or Marlena weeping over a coma, and I almost laughed imagining it. The flame inside me burned steady now, not wild, not loud, just enough to warm the hollow she'd left. She'd see it eventually, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, when the notifications stopped making sense, when her little empire crumbled under the weight of daytime TV. The TV droned on, and I closed my laptop, set aside, slow, casual like nothing was happening. Outside, the streetlights glowed through the wet glass, a faint shimmer in the dark, and I leaned back, letting the quiet settle over me. She sipped her wine, oblivious, and I watched her, the curve of her neck, the way her fingers curled around the glass, feeling the distance grow, not with a shout, but with a whisper. The switch was flipped, and all I had to do was wait. The morning after was still, no rain, just a heavy quiet that hung over the apartment, the kind that follows a storm when the world feels washed out, waiting to dry. Claire was up early, earlier than usual. I heard her moving around upstairs, the soft thud of her feet on the floor, the creak of the dresser as she got ready for work. I stayed in the kitchen, coffee brewing slow, the scent curling through the air like a tether to something normal. She didn't know yet, couldn't know, not with her videos swapped out just hours ago, the soap opera clips I'd planted ticking away in her account, silent bombs waiting to go off. I'd done it after midnight, her phone in my hands while she slept, wine-heavy and oblivious on the couch. The uploads had gone smooth. 15 files, 15 replacements, and I'd watched the progress bars fill one by one before locking the screen and slipping it back beside her. Now it was done, and I stood there, mug warm against my palms, listening to her hum that damn country tune as she came downstairs. She looked the same, plaid robe loose around her shoulders, hair tangled from sleep, that easy smile as she grabbed her own coffee. "Morning," she said, voice soft, a little hoarse, and I nodded. "Morning," back, steady like nothing was different. But it was. She sat at the table, scrolling her phone, thumb flicking fast over the screen, and I watched her from the corner of my eye, waiting for the crack. A frown, a pause, something showed it hit. Nothing yet. She sipped her coffee, laughed at some text from a friend, went on like always. The flame in me flickered, impatient, but I tamped it down. This wasn't instant, wasn't loud. It'd take time. Comments shifting, views dropping, her little audience turning confused or bored. I'd check later from my own screen, see the ripple spread. For now, I play my part, pour more coffee, asked about her day, let her chatter about a meeting she didn't want to sit through. Her world was still hers for a few more hours. She left after breakfast, kissed my cheek, grabbed her bag, called out a "see you tonight" as the door shut behind her. The apartment went quiet again, and I moved fast, pulled up my laptop, logged into a burner account I'd made, found her page. There they were, the titles unchanged, the thumbnails swapped, grainy shots of soap opera drama. Not her. The views were steady, but the comments, oh, they'd started. "What is this crap?" one said. "Where's the real stuff?" another. A few laughed. "LMAO, did she get hacked?" And I smiled, small and tight, feeling the flames settle into something warm, something mine. It was working, slow, subtle, just like I'd wanted. Her secret wasn't gone, just twisted, turned into a joke she couldn't control. I closed the laptop, leaned back, let the silence wrap around me. The day stretched out, gray and still, and I stayed there, picturing her at work. Phone buzzing, maybe a notification she wouldn't understand yet. She'd see it soon, tonight, tomorrow, whenever the confusion broke through her routine. I didn't need to rush it, didn't need to push. The ripple was out there now, spreading quiet and sure, and I could wait for her to feel it, wait for the moment she'd look at me and not know why I'd changed. The coffee went cold, and I didn't care. The taste was bitter, but it fit. The evening crept in slow, the sky outside bruising into a deep gray. No rain now, just a stillness that pressed against the windows, heavy and final. Claire came home late, her keys jangling in the lock, her steps heavier than usual as she dropped her bag by the door. I was in the living room, TV on low, some nature documentary, whales gliding through the dark, but I wasn't watching, not really. The laptop sat closed on the coffee table, my phone dark beside it, though I'd checked her account an hour ago. Views plummeting, comments a mix of mockery and confusion, her little empire crumbling under the weight of soap opera reruns. She didn't say much at first, just a tired hey, her voice flat, and I glanced up, caught the shadow in her eyes, the way her mouth tightened as she kicked off her shoes. She knew, or she was starting to. The flame in me burned low, steady, waiting to see how it'd play out. She moved to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, no wine tonight, and I heard the clink of the glass against the counter, sharp in the quiet. "Rough day?" I asked, keeping it light, casual, and she shrugged, yeah, something like that. Her phone was in her hand now, screen glowing as she scrolled, and I watched her from the couch, the whales forgotten, the room dimming around us. Her thumb stopped, her breath hitched, just a little, just enough, and I knew she'd seen it, the titles she'd made, the videos that weren't hers anymore. "What the hell?" she muttered, soft, almost to herself, and I tilted my head, played the part, something wrong. She didn't answer right away, just kept staring, her face paling as the pieces clicked. The comments, the views, the absurdity of it. Days of our lives where secrets used to live. She looked up then, eyes locking on mine, and for a second, I thought she'd ask, "Did you do this?" But she didn't. Maybe she couldn't. The silence stretched, thick and taut, and she set the phone down, slow, deliberate like it might bite. "I don't know what's going on," she said finally, voice thin, fraying at the edges, and I nodded. "Weird," I said, neutral, letting it hang there. She didn't push, didn't dig, just stood there, water untouched, her fingers twitching against the counter. I could have said it then. "I know, Claire. I saw everything. Could have let it all spill, the hurt, the betrayal, the nights I'd spent unraveling her lie. But I didn't. The flame didn't need that, didn't need a shout to feel fed. This was enough. Her confusion, her quiet panic, the way she looked at me like I was still the man she'd married, not the one who'd turned her game inside out. She grabbed her glass, headed upstairs. "I'm tired," she called. And I let her go, the documentary droning on, wails fading into the dark. Later, I stood by the window, the streetlights smearing yellow through the glass, and thought about it as her, the canyon I'd carved with a few clicks. She'd figure out eventually, maybe tomorrow, maybe never, that I'd been the one that I'd known all along. Or maybe she wouldn't, and we'd keep drifting, two strangers in the same house, smiling over coffee like nothing was wrong. The silence outside matched the one inside me now. Not peace, not quite, but a stillness I could live with. The flame dimmed, spent, and I turned off the TV, let the dark take over. Whatever came next, I'd wait.